Hey viewers, you might recognize my Raleigh Team USA bike here from some previous videos. I upgraded it from 12 speed up to 16 speed. But what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be upgrading the old style square taper bottom bracket and crankset to a newer style Shimano Hollowtech II bottom bracket and crankset. And I'm going to show you the whole process of doing that. Before I install the new bottom bracket and crankset, I need to remove the old one. So I'm going to take the chain off here, just put that back here, and then I can pop off this little dust cover here. Pop that out there. And then usually there's like a 14 millimeter nut or bolt in here, and on this one it looks like it's a 14 millimeter nut. So I'm going to remove this. So it's just a nut. And then I'm going to use a crank puller tool here. And so I'm going to thread this back here like this. And thread this on to the threads in the crankset here. Being careful not to cross thread it. It should go in and turn in pretty smoothly. And I'm going to screw that in and then back this off here because I want this part here to go in pretty much as far as I can get it. Like that, and then I can turn this part in, and then using a couple of adjustable wrenches here, I'm going to hold this here, this one here, and then use this other adjustable wrench to tighten this part in, like that, and that will basically pull the crankset off the spindle there. And then I just remove this tool, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. Okay, same thing on this side. I'll pop the dust cap off here, a little like that, and then exposes the nut under there. Then using my 14 millimeter ratchet wrench here, loosen that, and then I'll just remove the nut. There it is there. And then again with the crank puller tool here, thread this in carefully into the threads there. Turn that in, then turn this part in. Then I'll hold this, the big wrench, and then use this wrench to tighten this part in, and that'll basically push the crank arm off the spindle like that. Okay, now I'm going to remove the adjustable cup here, and the adjustable cups may vary, and so I'm using a little hook spanner wrench here to loosen this lock ring, and that'll pull the lock ring off here. And see if this, yep, that's pretty tight there. So the adjustable cup here is a bit tight, so I'll use a big wrench, just kind of get it loosened here. And once I kind of get it turning, it'll probably turn a little smoother. Yeah, there we go. And I should be able to turn it out by hand. A little sticky in spots. And pull this out. And then I can pull the spindle out. Pull the little rubber part, little plastic seal out. And it looks like the bearings are all loose in there. That's fine. Now I need to remove the fixed cup on here. On most bikes, to remove this, you're going to turn this clockwise. On vintage French and Italian bikes, this would be turned counterclockwise to remove this. But the norm is that it's left-hand threaded. And so the actual fitting on here might vary depending on your bike and the bottom bracket on there. On this one, I'm going to use, it's a 36 millimeter thing here. It's a HCW4 from Park Tool, and it fits right on there. I can also use a Crescent wrench, and I'm going to use a wooden mallet, just kind of tap down on here. And these can be really tight, but this one is coming off here, and so that I can remove this. If it's stuck, I have a couple videos on how to remove these if they're stuck. You can also hit it with like, there's some chiller spray from Finish Line, and spray that so it kind of freezes it, which causes it to shrink a little bit and you can maybe help get it out. But this is coming out like that. And then there's bearings in here. So I'll pull these bearings out like that. And so the whole bottom bracket is now removed. Now I just work on cleaning this whole thing up. Now to clean it up, I'm just going to use some degreaser. I use this stuff a lot. I get it at the dollar store and it works pretty well. So just spray this in there, let the chain get the chain out of the way. Just spray it in and then wipe it all out inside there. And I'll have it all nice and clean for the new bottom bracket. So now to install a Hollowtech II crankset, you're obviously going to need a Hollowtech II bottom bracket. And they come in both road bike versions and mountain bike versions. So if you're installing it on a road bike, you need the road bike version. If you're installing it on a mountain bike, you need the mountain bike version. Pretty simple. So each in the road bike version, there's like the 105, the Ultegra, and beyond that, they're relatively interchangeable. And the same thing with the mountain bike. If you get a mountain bike thing, they're generally interchangeable for that. Different levels, different qualities. And you pay more money or less money. And so the road bike version, you don't use any spacers when mounting this. On the mountain bike version, there are spacers, and depending the number of spacers you use, everything like that depends on the configuration that you're installing. And so you have to do a little bit of research if you're installing this on a mountain bike. So now to install this, you're going to need tools. Now most Hollowtech II bottom brackets are going to need like the older style tool, and this is the wrench version is from Park Tool is a BBT-9, and then there's a socket version which is the BBT-19. And the BBT-9 is nice because it has this little tool here which is used for preloading the bearings, and this is really nice because you can use this for like a ratchet wrench or a torque wrench. But the version I have here is a very new version. It's the Ultegra 6800. It's got a smaller diameter outer bearing here. So now this tool here does not fit that. They were nice enough to supply like little adapter rings made out of plastic. This slides right over here like this, and then the tool fits on like this, and you can torque it down. The problem I've read is that some people have had problems with this part stripping out. So Park Tool came out with a new tool, which is a BBT-59. And then this fits the new Ultegra, the smaller diameter bearings. But for most of the Hollowtech II bottom brackets, you can use either the BBT-9 wrench or the BBT-19 socket. And then you're probably also going to need this little part here for preloading the bearings. So let's go ahead and get started and installing this. Okay, I'm going to install the right side bearing in there first, and the right side bearing is marked with an R, the left side bearing is marked with an L, and also the dust sleeve. I'm going to leave the dust sleeve attached into the bearing there, and it's also got a left side and right side, so it's marked with an L and an R there, so I have the right side attached into the right side bearing. And I want to put a little bit of grease down in the threads here. And so I use either grease, anti-seize, or even a light thread locker, but just something to create like a barrier between the threads of the bearing and the bottom bracket shell to keep them from becoming seized. Now, some people recommend getting the bottom bracket shell face. That basically means machining down the faces of this so they're nice and flat. But generally, unless there's some damage, you really don't need to do that. But if you just want to do that, you can take your local bike shop, and if they have the tool, and it's an expensive tool, and it's not all bike shops even have that, they can do that for you. So this is English threaded, so I'm going to go ahead and screw this in. It'll screw in counterclockwise. If you have Italian or French bottom bracket, that would screw in clockwise. But this is English threaded, so it's left-hand threaded. And so I want to screw this in. It should screw in nice and smoothly. You want to make sure you don't cross thread this, so it should screw in nice and smoothly. Don't force it. And then once you get in there, you can use the tool here, which has nice knurled edges, to tighten it in by hand. So tighten it in as tight as you can, like by hand, there. And now using my torque wrench, I want to torque this down to between 305 and 435 inch-pounds. And so I'll take it up to, right there is about 350, so somewhere right in the middle, and so that one's done. Now the same thing on this side. I'm going to lube it up with a little bit of grease, or use like a little bit of anti-seize or mild thread lock, just to kind of give a little bit of protection between the threads and the bottom bracket so it doesn't seize in there. And then I'm going to thread this in, and this is going to go in clockwise, and I want to make sure that I don't cross thread it. It should turn in pretty smoothly. There. So turn this in, get the tool here, tighten it on like this, and I'll get my torque wrench, and there's about 350, and so that's on there. Okay, now I'm ready to install the crankset here. I've got the drive side, and what I want to do is put a little bit of grease onto the spindle here and into the splines there. So just kind of rub this around and get a nice coating of grease all along the spindle there and on these splines, like that. And then I can slide this in here, and it should slide all the way through. And then I can take a rubber mallet and tap this in. Oh, get the chain kind of caught back here behind there. And then tap this in with a rubber mallet so it's fully seated through there, like that. Okay, now I'm ready to install the left crank arm here. And it's keyed, so it'll go on one way, and you want it to go on 180 degrees from the other crank arm there. And notice there's there's like a little hole in there, and there's like a little plastic part that has a little pin that kind of sticks down. When you get this installed, that little pin is going to kind of fit into that little hole there. So not a big deal. So it just slides on here like this. Now there's this little tightening cap. This is going to thread in here like this, and just kind of thread that in, and you're going to use this to preload the bearings. So just kind of tighten this in by hand first, and then that's where this little part here on the end of the BBT-9 tool comes in. It's got this little part here that fits into this, and so you can kind of turn this by hand. You can also get this little part here separately, but just go ahead, put that in there, and you just kind of finger tighten this. And it doesn't need to be super tight. This kind of pushes the arm in, but it's not going to hold there. And so you want this, you want to kind of minimize so there's no play in there, but you don't want it to over tighten it to where it's binding the bearings there. So it's just going to be a little tight there, just finger tight. And that feels good right there, like that. Now once you get the adjuster cap here all adjusted to where you get the preload on the bearings feeling good, to where there's no play on there and it turns smoothly, you need to tighten these pinch bolts here. And it's a 5mm bolt, and so you're just going to kind of tighten these in kind of till they're, you can kind of feel a little bit of tension there, like that. And then you want to kind of take turns tightening each side just a little bit. So you don't want to tighten one all the way and then tighten the other one all the way, and just kind of go back and forth. And this is what actually holds the arm in, not the cap. Now you can tighten these by feel, or they go to about 12 to 15 Newton meters. So I got my torque wrench here. Tighten this. And there. So now these are both tightened down, and so that's all mounted on. Now I can install the chain onto the chain ring. I'll just get it on there and turn it around there and just put it on there for now. Okay, now all I have left to do is to adjust the front derailleur, and I have other videos on that, so I'm not going to cover that on this, but that's pretty normal. If you're changing cranksets to a different type, then you're probably going to have to readjust the front derailleur, so that's no big deal. Mount some pedals on there, and I'm done. So that is how to convert from an old style square taper bottom bracket crankset to a new style Hollowtech II bottom bracket crankset. Hope you found that useful or interesting. If you did, please click like. I always appreciate getting likes on my videos, and it helps me out. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, click the big yellow subscribe button and you'll see new videos that come out. I'm always coming out with new videos. And I'm also over on Facebook. If you want to connect with me over there, go over there, like that page, RJ the Bike Guy. And I post a lot of stuff over there as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.